As I sat among my colleagues, unaware of the impending office drama that was about to unfold, little did I know that my coworker Karen will demand a job promotion cause. She claims she is smarter than our CEO. Here's how it all went down. We were all relatively new at the company, just trying to find our footing in the fast-paced world of technology. Among us was Karen, who, from the very beginning, had her sights set on something far grander than the rest of us could imagine. One day, during a casual coffee break in the break room, Karen made a bold declaration that would change the course of our office dynamics. Karen confidently expressed, "I've been working here for weeks, and I believe I deserve a promotion. I can't remain in this entry-level position for much longer. I am tired of being given orders, and my salary is insufficient to meet my needs." I asked her, "Why do you think you deserve a promotion when we have only been in the company for a few weeks? You do know that tenure is a significant factor for promotion, right? You guys know I'm smarter than ChatGPT or even the CEO of this company, right? So I am the exception to that factor you are talking about," Karen proclaimed, her voice tinged with arrogance. The rest of us looked at each other in confusion, not entirely sure if she was joking or just extremely confident. Her statement soon reached the ears of the boss, our department head. A few days after Karen made an audacious claim, she wrote to our boss and demanded a promotion, stating that her skills are far superior to her current position. Our boss called her into his office. The rest of us couldn't help but wonder what this was all about. Our boss had a reputation for being no-nonsense, and we suspected Karen was in for a reality check. As we speculated, our boss's stern expression confirmed that he wasn't in the mood for idle chatter. He got straight to the point. "Karen, I heard you believe you're smarter than both ChatGPT and our CEO. And you wanted a promotion because of that," he said, his tone measured. Karen leaned back in her chair, her demeanor oozing with confidence. "Well, not to brag, but yes." Our boss leaned forward, his gaze locked on her. "All right, Karen, prove it." We couldn't help but feel a mix of curiosity and apprehension as we listened to their conversation. It's worth noting that they were talking inside our boss's office, but our manager's office is not particularly soundproof, so we could hear everything from outside. Our boss handed Karen a complex financial report filled with numbers and jargon that could make anyone's head spin. "Analyze this report and provide me with a summary, including your recommendations for improving our profitability." Karen accepted the challenge with unwavering confidence. For hours, she toiled over the report, appearing deep in thought and scribbling notes. However, her actions soon raised suspicion among some of us. It was as if she was trying to outsmart our boss rather than genuinely analyzing the report. Finally, Karen handed in her analysis with a triumphant smirk. She believed she was on the brink of securing the promotion she so passionately desired, insisting, "But sir, I still believe I deserve a promotion." Days later, our boss called Karen into his office once again. This time, his expression was stern, and it was evident that he had thoroughly reviewed her work. We couldn't help but wonder what the outcome would be. Our boss began to dissect Karen's analysis point by point, and his disappointment became increasingly apparent. It was clear that something had gone terribly wrong with her approach. He looked up at her with disappointment. "Karen, your analysis is deeply flawed, and your recommendations would lead our department down a disastrous path. It's clear you do not possess the expertise required for the role you aspire to." Karen protested. "This is unfair. I know my analysis is right, you just don't want to give me the promotion I deserve." My boss said, "If you think this company is not valuing you, you are free to leave." Before Karen left, she stated, "I will sue this company for your abusive treatment of employees." As Karen left our boss's office, her head hung low. It was clear that her bold attempt had gone wrong in a big way. Her insistence on deserving a promotion had only further highlighted her lack of the qualities necessary for the role she sought. While ambition was admirable, true success required more than just bold claims and overconfidence. It demanded hard work, dedication, and genuine expertise. As for her infamous claim of being smarter than ChatGPT and our CEO, it became the stuff of office legend. It served as a stark reminder that true intelligence and leadership were measured not by empty boasts, but by integrity, humility, and a genuine commitment to the success of our team. Wow, what a roller coaster of a story. Karen's confidence sure got the best of her. It's a great reminder that success is earned through hard work and expertise, not just claims. Kudos to the boss for seeing through her bluff. I thought my wife and I had a strong and happy marriage, until I overheard her having a conversation with her coworker that sent shivers down my spine. The flirty tone, the inside jokes, it was all too much. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a roller coaster ride that would test the boundaries of our relationship. Here's how it all went down. My wife and I have been together for 10 years, married for nearly 5, and we have a 3-year-old son. We are fairly happy, though we have been having couples counseling for 6 months as we found being parents very difficult. We've been making a lot of progress with our communication lately, but today that all fell apart. My wife has autistic traits which run in both our families, and I have ADHD, so we are a neurodivergent couple. That's probably relevant here. My wife recently moved back into our shared office as we both work from home. Today she hopped on a video call with a guy from work who she is friends with, and I stepped out to take a quick call about something. After my call was finished, I just sat scrolling Reddit for a bit, but could hear their conversation, and it increasingly made me uncomfortable. My wife sounded like a completely different person. She would tut and giggle before she said anything. She was constantly joking with him every sentence. She was energetic, and it all just sounded so incredibly flirty. He had called her, not for anything work-related, but to tell her he had taken a new job in the city closest to us. He currently lives far away. She said things like, "Do me a favor. When that job contract comes, just rip it up so you don't have to leave. And as long as you are always available for me on Microsoft Teams." And they then went on to confirm they had each other on WhatsApp, etc. All the while joking about various things and giggling in a way that I never hear her do, ever. They were talking for 20 minutes, and I almost started to record them so she could hear herself back. But they said goodbye just after I started. It just made me feel so gross listening to it. This isn't the first time I've noticed their flirtatiousness, and I brought it up last year after she started that new job. They were calling each other outside work hours, and she added him on the PlayStation, and they would sit and game together in the evenings, chatting away with the same giggly, flirty tone. She was talking about him a lot and telling me lots of really personal things about his childhood and parents and stuff. It caused issues when I brought up that it made me feel uncomfortable, especially one night when we were supposed to have time together, but she just forgot and spent the night playing with him. She denies flirting at all and just says he's a work friend. Around that time, she traveled to the central office, and I know he had invited her for dinner at his place, which hadn't happened in the end, I think, because I said I wasn't comfortable with that. They did end up still going for dinner in the city together, though, as friends. The thing is, I'm not a jealous person. Over the years, my wife has had a few crushes, one of them being my university roommate who's like a younger brother to me. It's kind of a running joke that they both fancy each other a bit, and I genuinely don't mind and think it's funny. We joke about one day having a threesome with him, etc. I do know that she is prone to the occasional crush, and I don't take it seriously, but have once or twice over the decade felt like I have had to point out some boundaries. So back to today, after they finished their call, I said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" She said, "Sure, what's on your mind?" When I then said that she probably wouldn't like what I was about to say, she immediately got defensive and walked off, saying, "I'm not going to have this conversation." I caught up with her, frustration building, and said, "You know, it feels like you were flirting with him during that call. It makes me uncomfortable." She responded defensively, "Flirting? Are you serious? I was just being friendly, that's all." I continued, my voice tinged with hurt. "It really sounded like heavy flirting to me. I mean, if I talked to another woman at work like that, I'd feel uncomfortable too. And if a girl talked to me like that, even as a clueless guy, I'd sense that she fancies me. It hurts, you know, and if you talked to me like that, it would be a dream come true." She sighed, clearly annoyed. "You're overreacting. I'm just friends with him, and you're making a big deal out of nothing." I tried to convey my feelings, saying, "It's not about not wanting you to have friends. It's about boundaries and respect in our relationship." She cut me off, raising her voice. "You're just trying to control who I can be friends with. I don't understand what's wrong with you right now, and I'm fed up with this." Even though I haven't spoken to her about this since last summer, and have never been jealous in our 10-year relationship, I felt like I'm being gaslit as it seems like such obvious flirting, and she's just dismissing it as all in my head. It caused a massive argument. I'm willing to admit that me getting upset about it is likely some insecurity, but at the same time, I feel like I know what I saw/heard, and that I'm an understanding person. I'm okay with crushing, but this just crosses a line. I should be able to say that, no? I think it's likely something to do with my wife's autistic traits and not understanding the social norms or boundaries. I don't know. She doesn't realize how flirty she's being sometimes. I think that's definitely true. I wish she would flirt with me by accident a bit more. Is it okay for me to feel upset by this? Or am I being a jerk? A few weeks later, I ended up telling my wife what I feel, and it was incredibly validating to feel like I wasn't going insane. We had a really difficult conversation about it all, and we were both so angry at each other until she told me the truth. In a rather heated moment, she kind of venomously said something like, "I like talking to him because when I do, I feel happy and relaxed, like I can be myself, which is something I can never feel when I'm around you." This really made me sad, and I instantly wasn't angry anymore. I just apologized and told her how that's just what I wanted her to feel around me again. That feeling of being herself is something she had lost after becoming a mom, and the difficult few years we've had in COVID, etc. We don't have and have never had any help being parents from our extended families, and so we never have time together for ourselves. She didn't have any feelings for him beyond a friend, and I do think she was genuinely being naive, and also a little willingly ignorant about him pushing boundaries. A few examples that came out after we talked about it. He had asked to come back to her hotel room to continue chatting after the work party, for example. This was also due to her autism as well, and not fully understanding where the boundary is. But when we looked at the big picture, she could see and did admit that she had unwittingly begun down the path of some kind of emotional affair, which she didn't really know was a thing. She took responsibility for this and did stop talking to the guy and told him that she would only be talking to him if required for work purposes from then on. He left that job very shortly after, so that was also easier for us. Funnily enough, it did come out after he left that he had made some advances and been awkward with a few other of my wife's colleagues. People noticed at work that my wife had stopped being friendly with him and was asked, "Was it because he was being awkward with you as well?" kind of thing. We talked a lot in counseling about it. I think a massive problem that I had to acknowledge was that she had gotten to a place where she expected me to be angry and irritated by things, because that is definitely something I have struggled with. So she had begun hiding stuff in fear of how I would respond. She didn't feel like she could talk to me about stuff. When she did admit to her wrongdoing and acknowledge she had begun to push me away and prioritize things above our relationship, she was surprised at how kind and patient and forgiving I was. I was surprised too. We kind of figured out that a lot of the anger and irritation was often because I could tell that I wasn't getting the whole truth. That's all I wanted, her to be straight with me so I know where I stand. That, and my feelings to be acknowledged, both of which are a massive trigger for me. We started doing things like having a take back of the day, where if one of us said or did something we later regretted, then we could apologize and call it our take back. And we both agreed that we would forgive and forget those, with no exceptions. We found that worked amazingly to develop compassion and understanding for one another. We also began working on having date nights every Friday, and having difficult conversations with 100% honesty while sitting together, looking at each other, and holding hands so that we were connecting and feeling listened to. This was prescribed by our therapist because she told us about how when we both get triggered, we have a tendency to dissociate, and we don't look at each other and turn away from each other and get stuck in a place where we can't hear what the other is saying. That was really tricky at times, but we've gotten pretty good at it now. And whenever we start struggling, we are very conscious to make physical contact and look at each other so we can hear and be heard. We took a break from counseling over the summer holidays because we decided we needed some time to process, and we ended up having an amazing summer. We went back for a therapy session last week, which we thought was about starting a second round. We were a bit nervous because we've been so happy and didn't want to stir anything up, but the therapist could see how happy and good things have been. So she told us not to come back, unless we want to in the future. And it's true, we have been the happiest we have ever been. We are really close again. Our communication is so much better. Our understanding and compassion for each other and our quirks, triggers, etc. are at an all-time high. We look out for when the other is struggling and step in where we can. When we miss it and the other has a meltdown or does something unkind, we are much better able to forgive and forget it using our takebacks and just having more understanding and compassion for each other's strengths and weaknesses. I think it's fair to say that although some boundaries were being crossed, my wife was only at the very beginning of the path that leads to a full-blown emotional affair. Nothing had really happened, and there were no feelings my wife had beyond an exciting friendship with someone who was giving me nice attention, though he definitely had ulterior motives. So we were lucky to catch it when we did. That being said, the root cause was definitely our bad communication, negative behavioral loops that we had gotten into, and the degradation of our romantic relationship from becoming new parents over the last 4 years. There was a lot to learn, and a lot of effort and willingness required on our parts to fix the issue and move forward. But only in short, intense convo bursts outside of which we have been very happy because we feel in control of it. By being open, honest, and actively listening to each other, couples can resolve a lot of issues and strengthen their relationship. Good communication is the key to understanding each other's needs, addressing concerns, and fostering trust. It's essential, especially in a relationship, to create a safe space where both partners can express their feelings and work together to find solutions. I never imagined that my decision to marry Rose would be shrouded in secrets. As I sit here, haunted by guilt, I wonder if I'm a jerk for keeping the real reason hidden from her. Here's how it all went down. About 14 years ago, I obtained my mechanical engineering degree, but was struggling to find work. I eventually landed a job working for a medium-sized company, but even then, I was still facing financial difficulties due to my significant student loan debt and the high cost of living in the city. It was admittedly a challenging period in my life. I'm sure many people can relate to the feeling of investing so much effort into their education and not seeing immediate results. However, during this time, I developed a good relationship with my boss, as I believed that building this connection was the easiest way to earn promotions and achieve a higher income. Eventually, I had the opportunity to meet my boss's family. It quickly became apparent that his daughter, Rose, had a strong liking for me. At the time, I didn't think much of it, as I believed that mixing my personal and professional lives would be ill-advised. Additionally, I did not share the same romantic feelings towards her. Nevertheless, I made sure to always treat her with exceptional politeness during our interactions. In short, my boss's wife discovered the situation, and as a result, I started receiving regular invitations to their house for events such as dinners. Throughout these gatherings, my boss and his wife would often facilitate conversations that led to interactions between Rose and me, or they would conveniently leave the room, leaving the two of us alone. One evening at their house, my boss winked at me and said, "You know, we really appreciate your dedication to the team. You've become like family to us." His wife chimed in, "Absolutely, and our daughter adores you." I smiled and replied, "Thank you so much. I've truly enjoyed getting to know all of you." As the weeks passed, my boss continued to drop hints about my future within the company. "You're a valuable asset to our team," he told me one evening. "I wouldn't be surprised if higher positions start opening up soon, and I'll be more than happy to recommend you." Sure enough, within a few weeks, I received a promotion, which I attributed in part to the close relationship that had developed through these social interactions. While I will admit to not feeling much of a romantic connection with Rose, I did put a lot of effort into fostering that relationship, and she was happy with the attention I was giving her. After a few months of this, we were married. As you can imagine, my career really took off then. However, I did leave the company roughly 2 years after getting married, and with the recommendations I was able to get from my former boss/father-in-law and several other people he introduced me to, I was able to secure a good position elsewhere. Today, I can happily say that after being married for 12 years and having 3 children together, there is no other woman I would rather spend my life with. Because I feel like this, I have always felt that my primary motivator for getting married to Rose is no longer relevant. That being said, I had lunch with 2 of my longtime friends, Michael and Wilson, a few days ago. We hadn't seen each other in about a year, so it was a nice opportunity to catch up. I should note that Michael and Wilson are both familiar with my situation, as we were in regular contact back then. During our lunch, Michael asked if Rose ever found out the real reason why I decided to marry her. I replied, "Of course not, Mike. It's something that would only hurt her unnecessarily." Wilson chimed in, nodding in agreement. "I get what you're saying, but you know, honesty and transparency are crucial in a relationship. My wife and I learned that during couples therapy. It might be tough initially, but in the long run, it's often better if the truth comes out." I hesitated for a moment, wrestling with my feelings of guilt, and then firmly reiterated, "I understand your point, but I genuinely believe that Rose not knowing is the best course of action for our family." The conversation largely ended there, but as the days passed, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling of guilt that had settled in. Michael and Wilson's words about honesty and transparency continued to echo in my mind, making me question whether I was doing the right thing by keeping this secret from Rose. Am I a jerk? I had time to do some self-reflection over the past few days, and my conclusion is that I am probably the luckiest person in the world to have such a fantastic spouse and wonderful children. Rest assured that I have no intention of my spouse ever finding out the real reason why I decided to marry them. Also, I am very confident that my 2 friends won't say anything to my spouse. I failed to mention it earlier, but I also have some information on Michael's marriage, and given that Wilson is in couples therapy, I'm highly doubtful he'd say anything. Even without this, I can't imagine either of them overstepping such a boundary. I'm sure many of you are wondering how they knew in the first place. The reason they knew was because we were all housemates at the time, and they were able to witness the situation unfold firsthand. I guess you could say that while I'm largely an introverted person, I still talk a lot, especially with my friends. I do still feel guilty about my initial motivation to pursue my spouse, but also very grateful for how things turned out. I like to think they're also grateful. Over the last few days, I've been trying to turn this gratitude into action to make my spouse feel appreciated. Yesterday, I brought them breakfast in bed, and in the evening after work, I brought them a surprisingly expensive bouquet of flowers. Tonight, we have reservations for their favorite restaurant and a sitter who will watch the children. I know these things are minor in the grand scheme of things, but I want to do more thoughtful things for my spouse. This will be my early New Year's resolution. It could be argued that it's better for her not to know the real reason behind your initial decision to marry her, as long as you genuinely love her now. Transparency and honesty are important in a relationship, but if revealing the truth would only hurt her unnecessarily, it may be more beneficial to focus on the present and the love you share. Ultimately, the decision is yours to make, considering what would be best for your relationship and family. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.